It's November 14th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with President Yoon Suk-yeol's trip to South America. President Yoon Suk-yeol is departing for Peru and Brazil to attend the APEC and G20 summits. Included in his week-long trip is a trilateral summit with the leaders of the U.S. and Japan. Over 522,000 students, including high school seniors and graduates, are currently taking South Korea's annual college entrance exam, Suneung. There'll be no aircraft allowed to take off or land during the English listening evaluation portion. U.S. media projects that the Republicans will gain full control of both the House and Senate, with the party having won a majority in the House of Representatives, which will allow President-elect Donald Trump to press ahead with his agenda. President Yoon Suk-yeol will set off for South America later on Thursday, where he'll take part in annual multilateral meetings aimed at promoting global interests, including for trade and stability. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon covers what to expect from his 8-day trip.
The APEC summit in Lima, Peru, and the G20 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil are the two multilateral summits President Yoon Suk-yeol is set to participate in over the next 8 days during his first trip to South America. Official engagements for the APEC summit start on Friday local time, and the APEC Business Advisory Council and CEO Summit will be on that day along with the first session. The APEC summit comes as South Korea is set to host next year's APEC summit in Gyeongju, Gyeongsangbuk-do Province.
In the first session of the upcoming APEC summit, themed Empower, Include, Grow, the leaders of member economies will discuss ways to promote inclusive economic growth and support vulnerable groups. President Yoon will emphasize South Korea's commitment as next year's APEC chair to leading discussions on fostering a free and stable trade and investment environment.
On the 16th, an APEC leaders retreat in the morning will wrap up his APEC schedule, and in the afternoon, the official visit to Peru will begin as President Yoon will be welcomed by Peruvian President Dina Boluarte for a summit which will be followed by a joint press conference. Peru is the only nation in South America that South Korea has a comprehensive strategic partnership with, and the two nations are seeking to expand exchanges in the arms industry as well as the shipbuilding industry.
Peru was the second South American country after Chile to sign a free trade agreement with South Korea, and the two nations have since developed a close economic partnership as a gateway to the Latin American market.
After this, President Yoon will take off for Brazil to join the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro on the 17th. On the 18th, he will start his G20 engagements with Session 1, which Yoon will address global hunger and poverty, while during Session 3 on the 19th, he will deliver a speech on clean energy. In the meantime, President Yoon is also set to utilize the multilateral summit stages to emphasize global solidarity against the military cooperation between Russia and North Korea. Russia's top diplomat Sergei Lavrov will be at the G20. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Also in Peru, the leaders of South Korea, the U.S. and Japan are holding a trilateral summit, following up on the pledge made at Camp David last year to hold an annual top-level meeting. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has more.
President Yoon Suk-yeol will hold a trilateral summit with US President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba on Friday on the sidelines of the APEC conference in Lima, Peru. Seoul's presidential office on Thursday confirmed the highly anticipated meeting has been arranged, as the three sides look to reaffirm their agreements made at Camp David last year to deter North Korea's nuclear and missile threat and to jointly handle security and economic challenges in the region. The leaders will meet amid concerns that the incoming Trump administration in the US may not maintain the trilateral partnership, and as tensions rise over North Korea's deployment of troops to aid Russia's war against Ukraine.
What is deeply concerning about North Korea-Russia cooperation is that it could spiral into a worse, unforeseen scenario if Russia transfers advanced military technology, including nuclear weapons, to North Korea. Beyond energy and food supplies, Pyongyang's security threat to the world will reach unprecedented scale.
Yoon is likely to meet separately with Ishiba on Saturday, according to Japanese media, after Ishiba reinstated his leadership as PM. The two leaders are expected to build on their brief talks last month in Southeast Asia on preserving their trilateral cooperation with Washington and enhancing bilateral ties ahead of the 60th anniversary of normalizing diplomatic relations next year. Seoul is also trying to coordinate a bilateral summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping during Yoon's 8-day trip to Latin America. Yoon and Xi have only met briefly during the G20 summit in 2022 and at APEC last year in San Francisco. Their first sit-down meeting would signal a major step towards improving bilateral ties, which have been frayed in recent years amid the US and China's rivalry in the region. Observers suggest that as Pyongyang increases its military ties with Moscow and appears to act independently of Beijing's influence, it's in South Korea and China's interest to cooperate.
Early in the Yoon administration, there was a strong focus on the U.S. and Japan creating a distance with China. However, China's recent mention of visa exemptions could be a signal of its willingness to improve ties and resolve certain issues. In my view, trilateral cooperation between South Korea, the U.S. and Japan is crucial. Managing relations with China and Russia, particularly with North Korea's complexities, is also necessary.
Although South Korea and the geopolitical security environment are different, so should benchmark countries that are skilled at balanced diplomacy, such as UAE. We will have to observe how the incoming U.S. administration responds and China's discomfort over the North Korea-Russia situation and their future course of action. Each country will see their strategic considerations grow.
The biggest question is whether Yoon will meet former, now returning US President Donald Trump while he's on the other side of the Pacific. In their first phone call last week, Yoon and Trump agreed to meet in person soon to discuss various issues, including North Korea in detail. A Yoon official says the two sides have been communicating closely, but the incoming administration is currently focusing on domestic matters. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden and President-elect Donald Trump have met at the White House for the first time since the presidential election last week. Biden welcomed Trump on Wednesday local time and pledged full cooperation for a smooth transition, while Trump expressed appreciation for Biden's support. Also, during their 2-hour conversation, the two reportedly discussed ongoing wars in Ukraine and in the Middle East. The Oval Office visit upholds the tradition of a peaceful transfer of power, a gesture Trump declined to extend to Biden in 2020 after falsely claiming Biden had not won the election. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has chosen Senator Marco Rubio as his top diplomat as his cabinet continues to take shape, while also seeing a major boost as the Republicans have taken both Congress and the House. Lee Seung-ja has more.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is quickly making his cabinet picks and officially named Florida Senator Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State on Wednesday. Known for his hawkish stance on China and Iran, Trump called him a strong advocate for the U.S. He's also expected to have a hardline stance on North Korea. During a 2017 CBS News interview, Rubio said the U.S. must do all it can to make sure that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un doesn't acquire the nuclear capability that would allow him to strike the U.S. mainland. Meanwhile, Trump continues to make loyalty a key qualification for his picks. On Wednesday, he announced on Truth Social that he will nominate Republican Representative Matt Gaetz to serve as U.S. Attorney General. The president-elect said Gaetz distinguished himself in Congress through his focus on achieving desperately needed reform at the Department of Justice. However, Gaetz is currently under investigation by the House Ethics Committee for alleged sexual misconduct and illicit drug use. Trump also named a former Democrat turned Republican as the new Director of National Intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard, who served as a Democratic Congresswoman from Hawaii from 2013 to 2021, will be advising the president on security matters after a Senate confirmation. Gabbard served in Iraq and was promoted to lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve 3 years ago. The next 4 years for Trump is expected to be smoother than the first 4 years, as the president-elect and the Republicans have achieved full control of the U.S. government. After achieving a majority in the Senate, the Republicans have also taken a majority in the House of Representatives. The trifecta, which was achieved at the start of Trump's first term in office, will give him a significant boost. It will pave the way for Trump to enact his policies on the economy, immigration, and other key issues, while giving Democrats less leverage to challenge his agenda. Meanwhile, John Thune will replace Mitch McConnell, the longest-serving Republican Party leader in Senate history. After winning the secret ballot on Wednesday, Thune will be the new Republican Senate leader and the majority leader in the upper chamber of the new Congress. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea has acknowledged that North Korean troops have joined combat operations in Russia's Kursk region shortly after confirmation from the U.S. Does this mean as far as a weapon supply to Ukraine is now officially on the table? For more, we're joined by President Frank Januzzi from the Maureen and Mike Mansfield Foundation. Hello there.
Good morning.
Does South Korea's confirmation mean Seoul will now actively review how to respond to military collaboration between Russia and North Korea? What do you think?
Well, I do believe that this official acknowledgement of the DPRK troop presence in Russia clears the way for South Korea to take further diplomatic steps, essentially to hold Russia accountable for violating numerous UN sanctions resolutions which Russia itself had voted for. But beyond that, I think that we are probably in a wait-and-see mode because the South Korean government needs to assess the incoming Trump administration's approach not only to North Korea policy, but also to Russia policy before thinking about things like the provision of lethal security assistance to the Ukrainian government.
So are you saying a supply of lethal weapons from South Korea to Ukraine is not going to happen in the coming months or, soon?
I think it's very unlikely that the South Korean government would take such a step between now and the inauguration of President Trump in January. I do believe, however, that after January, after a chance to consult closely with the United States, and also after the Peru Trilateral Summit with Japan and the United States, then the South Korean government will be well positioned to make any adjustments to their security assistance policies that they may choose to make. But no, I don't anticipate any precipitous, quick move by the South Korean Yoon administration.
Well, we have to talk about North Korea. The regime is yet to comment on Donald Trump's election victory last week. What is North Korea really waiting for?
It's always difficult to get inside Kim Jong-un's mind.
Right.
But in this instance, I think it's relatively easy to see what he's doing. North Korea doesn't want to make the first overture to President Trump. They had a lot of symmetry, a lot of high-level dialogue in the first Trump administration. I think that Kim Jong-un probably is interested in trying to revive some form of diplomacy with the United States and President Trump. But he's not going to make the first move because he does not want to appear too eager or desperate. The fact is that President Trump is going to have to come courting the North Korean leader, who has now secured his position with Vladimir Putin. He's getting technical support, he's getting money, and he's getting diplomatic support on the international stage from Russia. So he's not going to be the one to make the first moves to engage with Trump.
Well, as widely expected, Trump has appointed Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State. Isn't Rubio a hardliner on North Korea? What's going to happen next?
When I was a Senate staffer for then Senator Biden, I met Senator Rubio, and I've followed his career closely. I would describe Marco Rubio primarily as a pragmatist. He is a staunch anti-communist. These feelings are driven not only by his political worldview, but also by his heritage as a Cuban American, fleeing communist oppression. His family fled from Castro's Cuba. But I think that when it comes to North Korea policy, he's going to be a pragmatist. He understands that North Korea possesses nuclear weapons. He understands that any move to confront North Korea has to be done only in consultation with our allies. And so I think he'll take a firm position, but I think he'll also be pragmatic.
I'm sure North Korea is closely following all these appointments and latest developments. But do you think North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will at least try to make sure his relationship with Trump, doesn't go completely wrong?
Well, I think you're right. I think your assumption there is correct. But I would caution that the world has changed significantly since Trump was president in 2016 to 2020. North Korea is in a stronger overall position today than they were then. And so with Russian support and finance flowing, with Russian technology advancing his missile and nuclear programs, and with Russian and Chinese support diplomatically on the global stage, Kim Jong-un is frankly less interested in normalization of relations with the United States than he was during the first Trump term. So President Trump and the United States government are going to have to craft a new approach tailored to the new conditions. And I don't think we should expect simply a replay of the first Trump administration's North Korea policies.
Right, North Korea 6 years ago is not North Korea now anymore. All right, President Januzzi, thanks so much for joining us this morning. You have a great night there.
Thank you so much.
Bitcoin continues to hit fresh new highs, this time surpassing $93,000 for the first time. According to US-based crypto exchange Coinbase, Bitcoin prices surpassed $93,000 at around 1:15 a.m. Korea Standard Time. However, Bitcoin fell back down to under $90,000 hours later as investors began taking profit. The largest cryptocurrency by market cap continues its rally after Donald Trump's U.S. presidential election victory last week. It's Suneung Day here in South Korea, where high school seniors and graduates take the country's annual college entrance exam. The test is well underway now and will last until nearly 6 p.m. Korea time today. An Sung-jin reports.
Test takers head into the testing site as their long journey is close to an end.
I'm really nervous. When the exam is over, I just want to go home and sleep.
Family members and fellow schoolmates have come out to cheer on them.
We have 2 years left, so I can't entirely understand, but it feels real.
I hope all the test takers don't make any mistakes, aren't nervous, and leave with a good score.
For many students here in South Korea, having a good score in the National College Entrance Exam, known as Suneung, is something to strive for during the years of academic endeavor. This year, more than 520,000 students are taking the test at nearly 1,300 test-taking centers across the nation. That's nearly 20,000 more test takers than last year. And this year sees the highest number of people retaking the test in the past 21 years. This year is the first Suneung since the expansion of the medical school admissions quota, and as more students are expected to apply to med school, the number of test takers are expected to increase further this year. With these extra students, competition is expected to be more intense, and it is likely that more difficult questions to separate them will be presented. Test takers had to enter the testing site by 8:10 a.m. The Suneung normally lasts for 8 hours, but depending on the number of elective subjects, some students can end up taking the exam for more than 9 hours. Starting off with Korean language, the exam continues through with math, English, and elective subjects. On the day of the test, most government offices and some companies push back their working hours to 10 a.m. And the Seoul Metropolitan Subway increased the number of trains running from 6 a.m. till 10 a.m. Local police officers have also worked on maintaining order around the testing site and transporting test takers in need. The exam results are to be announced on December 6th. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Now, let's take a look at the stories from around the world with our Kim Si-young. Good morning, Si-young.
Good morning, Dami.
Let's start in Baku, where COP29 is well underway. Fill us in.
Yeah, that's right, Dami. As we finish the third day of this year's United Nations Climate Change Conference, world leaders were seen expressing concerns and also renewing their commitment to mitigating climate change. Now, one of the highlights so far came on Wednesday when Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama criticized world leaders for not listening to each other's speeches.
since yesterday I was watching the silent TV screens in the Leaders' Lounge. People there eat, drink, meet, and take photos together, while images of voiceless speeches from leaders play on and on and on in the background. To me, this seems exactly like what happens in the real world every day.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Other leaders at the start of this year's conference of the parties made new commitments, including Brazil, whose vice president presented the country's new climate action plan, which aims to reduce emissions by a minimum of 59% by 2035, compared to 2005 levels, while UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced that Britain would cut greenhouse gas emissions by 81% by 2035. With a new report from the UN's weather agency saying 2024 is on track to be the warmest year on record, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres once again emphasized the urgency of climate action on Tuesday, saying that no country is spared and that it's time to deliver. Now moving over to Indonesia, several airlines have cancelled their flights to and from the tourist island of Bali due to ash clouds from the eruption of Mount Lewotobi Laki-Laki. Jetstar, Qantas, Virgin Australia, Cathay Pacific and Air Asia are among the airlines that have cancelled flights to and from Bali until Thursday, while a total of 80 flights in Bali were cancelled from November 4th to the 12th. Mount Lewotobi Laki-Laki spewed at least 17 columns of ash just on Tuesday, with the largest recorded at 9 kilometers high, according to the Center of Volcanology and Geological Disaster Mitigation. The volcano is located 800 kilometers from Bali on the remote island of Flores in Indonesia's East Nusa Tenggara province and has killed at least 9 since it erupted last week. Finally, to Pakistan, where 18 people died when a bus carrying wedding guests crashed into the Indus River in the north of the country. The bus was traveling to Chakwal city in Pakistan's Punjab province, just south of the capital Islamabad on Tuesday night, following a wedding when the accident occurred. Pakistani President Asif Ali Zardari said he has ordered emergency services to expedite rescue efforts, with some passengers still missing.
It looks to be a toasty Suneung test day, and yesterday's clouds kept the morning temperatures on the warmer side. Highs will jump to 17 degrees Celsius around lunchtime in the capital. But there are light showers in the forecast for around the end of the test in most parts of Korea. Rain starts from the west, spreading nationwide overnight. Southern provinces could see up to 10 millimeters of rain into early tomorrow. Meanwhile, Jeju Island will receive heavier rainfall mostly from tomorrow and into Saturday. So there's no cold snap for this year's Suneung, with temperatures hovering around 5 degrees Celsius higher than seasonal norms. Seoul gets up to 18 degrees. Daegu tops out at 19 degrees Celsius. Jeju will be much warmer at 23 degrees with afternoon sunshine on the island. The warming trend continues through Saturday, and Sunday's rain in the capital and Gangwon province will bring sub-zero morning temperatures next week. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for our morning edition of Arirang News. Thanks for watching.